Alright, let's take this piece of crap apart, shall we? First thing I'm going to do is just get into the flash assembly. To do that, we need to peel the little name badge off, put that over to the side. It feels very strange to use a Phillips head screwdriver, but it is the one redeeming factor of the SLR690, is that we can get into it using off-the-shelf screwdriver sets from your local hardware store. You don't need to find bizarre square-headed proprietary bits. But yeah, I am just going to start undoing everything. What I might do... I'm going to cut this bit out if it's not entertaining, but I'm just going to bring out the multimeter here on the voltage mode. And while we definitely know the camera is working, let me just see if I can get a reading. Actually, let's do it whilst the camera is collapsed and definitely turned off. And let me just see if I can read... find any kind of power. There you go, 5 volts. See? I mean, I've got the positive and the negative the wrong way around, but let me just show you that once again. This MDC03, the camera is completely closed. Let me just prove to you guys it is receiving power. How completely and utterly ridiculous. So that's why these things die. You guys, I really hope this message is getting across. Please share this information. I hate these things so much. They are the absolute worst. Why someone designed this this way, it doesn't make any sense. This would be like purchasing a car and you drive it around for a little while and then you go to turn off the engine. But turning off the engine doesn't actually turn off the engine. It just turns your headlights off. And it just keeps running 24/7 in case, I don't know, you need to get in it and drive it. It's so stupid. So this is my problem with the 690. And like I said, this is... I know I say this a lot on this channel. It's not a matter of if, but when they fail. But man, is this a pristine example of that, right? The other cool thing about the 690, they're very easy to deskin. Far and away, these have the easiest skin to remove. It is synthetic. It's made out of vinyl, and it also does crumble, but nowhere near as bad. It's clearly a better grade of vinyl than, say, something like the SLR680 used. So it does actually give you the opportunity to deskin it with a lot greater ease. I'll be reskinning this for my client, I believe, but I think I'm going to leave the skin on just for now, just until I actually do confirm that, because I don't know. He may just want me to keep that original 690 skin on. I think he wants it upgraded, but we'll just do that for now. But yeah, how insane. The camera's completely collapsed, should be turned off, yet that MDC03 transistor array continues to receive voltage. What a ludicrous design. Now, here we'll see what I mean about the ribbon cables. They have, instead of 7, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I was exaggerating a little bit when I said 12, but they do have more. I will be removing all of it, of course. So we'll take the little side off. Because yeah, I just don't want anything to do with any of these original electronics. And as I said, if you have a 690, if you are one of the unfortunate souls that purchased one of these thinking you were somehow getting this amazing camera, then I'm really sorry to be the bearer of bad news. But they are just garbage. And as I said, I own the parts that fix these things. Like, I have the Gerber files to make new ribbons. I have a stash of MDCO3s. But they're just junk. Like, why would I repair this and keep that same flawed design? It's just so stupid. And what's crazy is here's that power switch that I was talking about before. You guys can see it, right? It's still here. So what is it doing? Like, it's clearly not cutting power to everything. It's just so baffling. Like, why couldn't they put a kill switch on that PCB? Like, I genuinely, I don't understand. Was it intentional? Like, is there a reason for it? I don't know. It's so weird. Like, I could almost forgive that as an excuse if there was some kind of like LED display or something. Like, let's say, for example, they decided, oh, you know what, we're going to get rid of the analog film counter. Let's put in a little liquid crystal display that will count down your shots. That I could understand, because even in the collapsed position, that part would require some constant power to remember how many shots you'd taken. But that's not the case. But yeah, this is, I've put brand new ribbon cables in this. Everything that's on this shutter unit has been replaced. Like, this is all brand new SLR690 version 2.3. Everything here should work, but it doesn't, because those transistors are just junk. So I will literally just be putting this shutter housing over to the side. I don't even want to look at that stupid thing anymore. And I'm going to focus now on the body. And what I want to do here, I want to remove every aspect of this ribbon cable. So I have turned on, off to the side here, my desoldering gun, and I'm just going to get to work and go completely ham. Desoldering everything. Oh yeah, if it wasn't clear, I really should have led with this. This camera belongs to a client of mine. I've actually repaired it before. That's why it's got new ribbon cables in it, right? So this is a camera that belongs to a client of mine, and when I repaired it, when I replaced those ribbon cables, I told the guy, I was like, well, I've done my job, but I cannot guarantee how long this will last. It's gonna fail. And I kid you not, the guy reckons he put 2 packs of film through it, went to do a third, this is over about the period of a 6-month process, and it died. How insane is that? So, after all of my hard work, it lasted 6 months before it conked out. But I did warn the guy, I said, look, you're dealing with a time bomb here. I said, you own the single most unreliable Polaroid that was ever produced. I am not responsible if something breaks on this that is like part of the electronics I haven't touched. And that's the thing, like, whilst I can do things like offer a warranty on my ribbon cables, because, you know, I get those manufactured brand new, I can't offer a warranty on repair for this for all the various different electronic parts that can fail. I don't know how companies like Retrospect do it. Like, I guess their warranty is only 90 days, so maybe that's why. But anyone that's selling these, like, refurbished, like, how do you do it? Like, how do you sleep at night? I'd be so paranoid that I'd be dealing with angry clients all the time. Anyway, this is what I'm doing. I'm removing all the ribbon cable here. We can see just how good quality the metal is on the 690. Like, from a chassis point of view, these are excellent quality, right? These are really, really cool. One of the things I will have to do, I believe it's the front switch. I can't remember. Again, because Polaroid Japan just decided they wanted to be different. They changed the design of one of these switches. Usually the way these switches work in the gear train is they're either both on or both off, depending on where the mirror has landed, whether it's up or down. On this, it's alternating. So one is on, one is off, one is on, one is off, and then they swap. So this front switch here, I will need to remove, and I'll replace that with an SX70 switch, which we'll be able to do because I've got some spares sitting on this chassis. But yeah, I'm just going to keep desoldering, just keep going, really strip this thing down. I don't know if I need to get into the viewfinder. I'm going to have a look through it because I think I've like already refurbished this camera once, you know? A desoldering gun is a really great piece of kit, by the way. I highly recommend, like if you do a lot of electronics projects, get yourself one. All right, we're nearly out. I will be removing the motor. There we go. Taking the ribbon cable off the film counter is always the hardest part. But yeah, here, more transistor arrays because the camera didn't have enough already. I think I'm just going to just finish this up with a little bit of wick because the desoldering gun hasn't quite been able to remove everything. I think that's done it. Come on. It is very fiddly removing the base ribbon cable. It's very rare that I have to remove this part on a regular SX70. But yeah, here we can see, even in the body ribbons, we have 2 transistor arrays. What on earth they do, I've got no idea. I mean, the old SX70 did have a driver chip, which basically just sent steady electricity to the motor. But I really don't know what the advantage of this is. Now, I won't have to open up this camera. I've already cleaned it in the past. Another thing I'll say about the 690, and this is also shared with the 680, the Fresnel screen, I typically find they're not as good quality as some of the older ones. They are prone to getting dark in the corners, which is a bit unfortunate. I think that's due to oxidization. But one thing that I will do, I will remove the little metal tongue whilst I'm inside here, just in case my client wants to convert this to take I-type film, because we're going to give him an SX70 sonar. Now, yes, you lose the flash attachment, but if you really wanted to, you could get a battery pack for the sonar camera, because what people may not realize is the sonar cameras, at the very top of that little flash socket is an extra set of terminals. And what those terminals are used for, I've never quite been able to understand. I don't know whether it was a feature that Polaroid put into the camera that they ended up not doing anything with, or whether it was for factory testing purposes, but there is a set of positive and negative battery terminals up there, and that actually means you can get battery adapters for sonar cameras only, so for sonar cameras only. The insert into the flash socket and power the entire camera. And that helps you use I-type film. So that's why I'm going to remove that tongue. I'm just going to get my flat file here and just file down those lugs. But yeah, fortunately, I won't actually have to open up this body, which is really nice because I've already done that work before in the past. And probably, if I check my Facebook, I probably have a very old live stream of me doing this ages ago, but I don't know, I don't remember. I don't often do a lot of ribbon cable replacements live on stream because they're very tedious. I have done them in the past, but once I've done one, I'm like, that's enough. So yeah, like everything, there are some redeeming qualities to the 690. As I said, the chassis is really good quality. It's like very glossy. I don't know if it's paint or some kind of anodized material. The plastic does feel nice, although the finish isn't very durable. And the bellows are a little flimsier, although they do feel like a really nice, supple, soft quality rubber. So now that we have, now that we've sorted out those little lugs at the bottom, I can now continue the operation. And I'm sure it's the front switch, but I will just double check and take off this one first before I look into the ribbon cables anymore. All right. And of course, being from a 680, this camera has rubber bearings that are absolutely falling apart. Sorry, not bearings, rubber bushings. And now I'll grab my desoldering gun again and just get to work. Now, in case it's not clear, these two ribbon cables, the reason that I'm swapping them, they are not electronically compatible in the slightest. Polaroid's SX70 range were entirely compatible, with the exception of like very early models that were almost like prototypes. They weren't ever really released to the public in great numbers. And I think some of those have like 12 connections on the ribbon, but they're insanely rare. Very early Fairchild models had 8 connections, but one of them is actually redundant, so you don't need it. All right, now let's see if I've removed enough solder off of those terminals to be able to remove them yet. Perhaps not. I think the door one's going to come off. All right, I'm going to hit it with a bit of wick as well because the solder on this particular 680 is pretty oxidized. This camera was in really rough shape. I had it donated by a viewer. So thank you for that. Shout out to Minna for this 680 donation. And literally I was like, I can barely salvage anything on this camera, so it is 4 parts. So because the solder is a little bit oxidized, I'm having a little bit of a hard time removing it all, but it's all coming off eventually. Go. Here we go. All right, just the battery terminals now. And of course, there is still useful parts on this chassis. I won't throw this in the bin just yet. I'm like a vulture. Like every carcass gets left until I've used every bone. There we go. All right. And we have a new set of donor ribbon cables. The other thing that I do need to remove is that switch. And I'm 90% sure I have done this particular mod before. I just can't remember which of the switches it is. I'm sure it's this one. I'm sure of it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's this one, because this one, the RAM pushes the switch forwards, thus opening the circuit. And I think on this one, it's the opposite. Now, the sliding RAM has a different sized head in the 690. So in addition to swapping the switch, I'll also need to bend it a little bit so that it still makes contact. The switch will need to be adjusted a little bit. It's not quite plug and play. Yeah, there you go. So here's the difference. 680 is on the left. Sorry, 690 is on the left, 680 is on the right. So I'll put this to the side. And since the screws are slightly different threads, I will leave the original 690 screw inside the 690 switch. That's going to tell me straight away what kind of a switch it is. And then I'm going to put the new 680 switch in here. But I believe what I'm going to need to do, I'm going to need to bend the head of that so that it sits further backwards. And that's going to help that switch be registered by the slightly different shaped arm. Now I might need to do a bit more finagling to get this thing to work properly. So I'll probably actually just do that now, whilst I've got everything in front of me. Get in here. Come on. I know you fit. I've done this before. This ain't my first rodeo. Just make sure that switch is not getting stuck on anything. There we go. All right, that's better. I will need that screwdriver. Now I'm just going to put it in place there. And now what I need to do with my multimeter, I need to make sure that both switches measure the same. So I'm going to put this on beep mode. Now I've got the mirror down at the moment, so let's see what the rear does. Yeah, so down is beep. Now hopefully this will beep. Yep. Now if I put this up, nothing. Still beeping. Okay, so that's a problem. Okay, and the reason that it's still beeping, that switch hasn't been engaged. So I think what I need to do, I need to move the switch so that it sits a bit further back still. And this is really the hardest part, is just modifying this little switch assembly so that it works. I can adjust this switch and slide it back, but then the ribbon cables don't fit nicely, so I don't like doing that. What I'm going to do instead is just bend this assembly so that it leans back a little bit. And okay, and I'll get this head a little further back again. So yeah, this switch by default should just be closed. Yeah. Let's try this again. Oh, what I do need to do though is manually move that mirror down. So basically what I'm going to do here is get all the ribbon cables attached. I have to recondition the motor that goes on those new ribbon cables. And then The shutter I'm going to build a little later because at the moment I have just, as of this morning, run out of stock of SX70 Sonar SX70R PCBs, so the manual Bluetooth ones. I am waiting on a delivery. Hopefully it'll be here this week, if not next. So there will be a little bit of a delay in this video from part 1 to part 2. But I hope you guys are finding this repair interesting. So let's send that RAM forwards again. Okay, that looks like it may be working. Nothing. Nothing. And again, let's just manually reset the mirror. Yeah, all of the cogs, the chassis on a 690 feel really nice. I must admit that the Japanese certainly seem to be able to build things with higher tolerances, because the 690 just feels different in your hands. It is just a pity that they are garbage. All right, why is my rear switch not working now? All right, that rear switch may need to be adjusted slightly. Either that or I didn't wind it back far enough. But that is now working. I may just need to adjust that rear switch slightly. But I don't think so. I think that was my fault doing that. I think that I was making a little mistake there, not winding the cog on enough. I don't think that will affect anything. All right, so I'm just going to, actually just while I've got the camera open, just give everything a good clean. The 690 has a lot of little bits of sticky adhesive underneath the ribbon cables, and since I've removed a lot of that, I want to just make sure the chassis is as clean as possible. Might as well. Do you know what else I think I might do? Because it's very rare that I ever have a camera opened up to this extent. I might sign the base of this as well. Wouldn't that be cool? You'll never see it, but I'll know it's there. There we go, get it all shiny. Nice. And maybe we'll do gold. And we'll go T-I-C-G. And it is February, so we go 02 24. And give it a squiggle. Signed. All right. Let's put that new ribbon cable on. I'll actually just quickly disassemble this motor while I've got it here. I may not put a new motor on at the moment because I might ask my client if he'd like me to put on a Mabuchi motor. Because the 690, the original ribbon cable, they actually use a Mabuchi motor on this. This is the same motor as you'll find in a 600. And I happen to have some in stock, so if my client really wants to keep this motor as original as possible, I could install a Mabuchi on there for him. So I think I'll just put the ribbon cables on, but I'll leave the motor off for now. Just on the off chance that my client wants to install a better quality motor. This motor I'll probably just replace anyway because it's in really rough oxidized condition. Really all I want to salvage off this 680 chassis is the ribbon cables. That's it. That's really all I want to use. This thing was so rusty and dusty and everything was smashed. Bellows had holes in it. Like this 680 was a real basket case. So yeah, really I just want to put the ribbon cables on only. And putting them on is as simple as doing the reverse of how we took them off. So poke them through. Now, in the factory, sometimes what technicians would do when they repair these, they'd put a little twist on the end of the metallic pins in order to hold the pins, hold the ribbon cable to the pins whilst you're soldering. Boy, is that annoying to remove. I will not be doing that at all. I hate it when previous technicians do that. It makes my life way more difficult. If I put something on, I want to be able to take it off again because we're all human. We all make mistakes. And this may need to be repaired in the future. So I don't want to make someone's life miserable because I was too lazy to use my middle finger here to hold down the ribbon cables. So yeah, I will not be doing that. And to any technicians out there that do that, stop being so damn annoying and think about the future. But yeah, the twisted, crimpy, that is so frustrating when you get that. Almost as frustrating as these battery terminals, which don't want to stay in place. I'm just going to take a little bit of wick to them since this one's a little blobby. Here we go, much better. And yeah, the hardest part is just getting them to feed through like so. There we go, that's one. I'm just going to solder on that one while I've got it in position. So this is now the connections for the battery terminals. And I'll do the same just on the other side here. I think I've got to do the same thing. I'm just gonna... Oh no, there's no need for wick there. I will just wick a little bit off the terminal itself. Okay. Yeah, the battery terminal is like one of the hardest things to solder back down because they always want to pop out, but I've got it in. Great. All right, now the rear hinge and the film counter. And then I will ask my client what he wants to do in regards to the battery. Now, it's actually worth noting the SX70R PCB completely ignores the connections to the film counter. So technically, I don't need to solder those points on. I'm going to do it anyway, but you actually could if you wanted to. If you want to know what those terminals do, on the film counter itself, there's two switches. One switch is involved when there's no pack of film in the camera. And that basically tells the camera, eject the dark slide. So when that switch is engaged, the counter is blank. So when the counter is blank, that switch is engaged. And that tells the brains of the camera, you need to eject the dark slide once we get power. The other switch, the switch at the top, is after 10 shots. And what that does is that cuts functionality to the PCB so as you're not wasting your flash and potentially, and that's sort of a hangover from the days of old flash bulbs where they were consumable and you wouldn't want to accidentally take a photo without realizing you'd run out of film. But that functionality is really unnecessary with electronic flash and certainly can be disabled. So if you have a normal SX70 and you don't want that dark slide eject to work, and you want the shutter to stay powered all the time, all you actually have to do is just cut that trace that goes to the film counter. Just cut the whole lot, and you won't get that functionality anymore. The shutter will fire like it normally would all the time. So you won't have a dark slide mode eject, it'll just eject manually. which is very handy if you have like external battery power, like a Reservot back or a power bar or one of the retrospect backs. It's a cool feature to have, but I'm just going to wire in the switch anyway because, well, I'm here, so I might as well. But you don't need to, is what I'm trying to say. And the SX70R PCB that I'm about to install in here, it won't use those switches anyway. So there we go. One new set of ribbon cables for a 690. And now we can actually put SX70 parts onto this. So the chassis now, for all intents and purposes, has turned into an SX70. So I could get, you know, an alpha shutter and stick that on there, and it would become an SX70 alpha. But what I'm going to do is install this shutter, the Sonar one. I just need to wait until we have the Sonar PCBs in stock. In the meantime, I'm going to contact my client, figure out what he wants to do with the motor, and, well, whatever decision he makes, the corresponding motor will be installed into the camera. I'm going to leave this video here because I need to wait for those PCBs and parts to arrive, but I'll be back very shortly. Well, I decided in the end that I'm going to make this a multiple part series, just to keep these videos a little bit shorter and keep everyone's retention a little bit higher, hopefully, because I believe discussing the problematic nature of the Polaroid 690 is super important. So, stay tuned for the next part where I'll be further building and hopefully finishing this particular camera. And yeah, if you like what I do, you know what to do. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. You can donate through the Ko-fi links as below. And of course, if you want one of your cameras refurbished, feel free to send it my way. Until then, happy shooting, and I will see you in the next video.